Aura is a series of interactive roundtable discussions amongst industry stalwarts, where they would be sharing their experiences and insights about a particular topic. So the topic for today's discussion would be scalable growth with platform integrations, challenges and solutions. Before we start, we would like to have some housekeeping tips. In case you cannot hear the audio, ensure you have selected the right speaker for your audio output. You may test the same to see if it is working fine from the audio setting option on the lower left corner of your screen. If necessary, dialing using phone. All attendees will be on mute by default. Please raise your hand if you have any query or post it in the chat window. Any questions can be posted to the Q&A panel. We will try to attend all questions during the session. The ones that remain shall be answered via follow-up email. A recording shall be made available to all attendees within a few days. Now it's the time for some introductions. Our host for today's roundtable is Dr. Vikas Joshi. Dr. Vikas Joshi is a business leader who is passionate about product development and technology entrepreneurship. His mission is to help create software products that make a difference, and a key part of that mission is to inspire tech professionals and entrepreneurs to grow and develop. We welcome you, Vikas, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Sarita, and welcome everybody. Our goal today is fourfold. We want to look around a bit to see what's happening in the market. We want to be able to justify integration investments to ourselves and to our managements. We want to take away with us a checklist for decision-making around scalable investments in integrations. And finally, and most importantly, we want to learn 3 different approaches to building scalable integrations from our terrific panelists today. I'm going to welcome them in just a minute, but before that, a couple of quick things about our focus for today. Number 1 is, as a product leader, there's a ton of different things that you have to pay attention to. Here are some examples. There could be the 101 of integrations, scalability, mixed solutions with part cloud, part on-premise deployments, complying with the regulatory requirements, data security, data cleansing, mapping out with other systems the data, and customizations to get the right workflows. All of that is important. None of that needs to be left out. But for today, we have a sharp focus on just one issue, which is broken down into 2 parts: scalable integrations, why, and scalable integrations, how. That's what we're going to do today. So with that, there's 4 things we're going to do. The game plan is understand how changes in our markets are driving the need for scalable integrations. Start viewing integrations as a strategic investment. Consider various aspects of integrations, scalability, and build a checklist for decision making. And finally, compare, as I said, 3 different approaches to platform integrations. So let's get right into it. What's going on in our markets as we speak? I'm going to share with you 4 very recent market observations. It's just one slide that will show you the growing momentum toward integrations. And this data is hot off the press. Most of this data was collected during the last few weeks. Number 1, 84% of vendors and enterprises feel, this is according to a State of the API Integration report by Cloud Elements, that API integration is critical or very critical to their business strategy. In fact, the same report also says that over 60% ISVs they surveyed offer an integration platform as part of the product. It's that important. Number 2, 94% of respondents said that integration with other systems is important for winning new customers. Now, this is MuleSoft's survey, so you can take it with a pinch of salt, but I would still imagine that a large number of enterprise SaaS solution providers would want integration with other systems. Through 2020, integration work will account for 50% of the time and effort, the time and cost of building a digital platform. This is according to Gartner's research. And a recent press release from Amazon, April 2020, says they have launched AppFlow for data exchange between AWS and other SaaS apps. So these are some of the vectors that tell you what's going on in the market. And this is a perfect opportunity for us to welcome our panelists. And we have a great panel today. Donald Darrah is a seasoned executive in HR technology, very active in strategic partnerships, has a great background. Manish Nautiyal is a healthcare IT expert with a great background in both IT development and operations. Ravindra Rao is a cloud SDN and virtualization expert. In short, we're going to have a strategic business perspective, the CIO's operational perspective, and the deep down architectural perspective on integrations. What a treat. I'm really looking forward to that. So let's get right on with it. Everybody, starting with Donald, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself and what makes you interested in this topic? Over to you, Donald.
Sure, thanks, Vikas. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name's Don Darrah. I am the VP of Alliances at EBI. I've been in the talent acquisition space for about 30 years. When I started, integrations were not even really talked about too much. They were done via import-export CSV files and FTP formats. But since then, obviously, as you all know, that's becoming widely on the back burner. Sometimes it's still used, but in my work, integrations is extremely important, especially in a highly competitive market that we're in with background drug and occupational health screening services. There's a lot of vendors out there. And from my perspective, when I came to EBI, my strategy was not only a new customer acquisition strategy, but also a retention strategy, because as the talent acquisition space has matured and grown, it's made it a lot easier for companies to move from one system to another or one vendor to another. And so having a scalable, repeatable, deployable solution from an integration perspective is a key strategic initiative for me in any business that I go into, whether it's EBI or even my previous companies.
Great. Thank you for joining us today, Donald. And over to you, Manish.
Hi, everyone. So this is Manish here. So for me, I'm currently, I'm working at Beacon Healthcare. We are like, I'm the senior VP of engineering over there. And we just a little about Beacon. So we do provide like software products in healthcare, and our expertise is around the appeals and grievance and also the compliance products. So I have I would say around 18 plus years of healthcare IT experience. And I have worked in, like big organizations. And I would tell you, like from, if I go like maybe 2 years back, everybody was 1 year, and I was part of a bigger organizations where there was a need. It wasn't a need to integrate with the outside world, but even within the same companies, they have hundreds of products and they want to integrate with each other. And there was always challenges, like, like people are trying to connect through like backend, like pulling data directly from backend, or, there were multiple ways of doing things. But now, as things are getting matured, I would say integration platform is a very, a core technology these days and very important for future needs, and especially for SaaS products, for B2B. This is a key factor. It can make you really successful if you have a good integration technology platform as part of your offerings.
Thank you, Manish. Just for a few seconds in between, your bandwidth was low, but we could catch up.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
Sorry
and welcome to the panel. Over to you, Ravi.
Good morning, Thanks, Vikas. Thanks, Donald. Thanks, Manish. As Vikas basically said, great panel to be here and honored to be part of this panel. And thanks to Vikas for putting this together. And good morning, good evening, good afternoon for people who have joined from all over the world. My name is Ravindra Rao. Been in the industry for more than, I would say, 34 years now, and have worn many different hats during that course of 34 years as a software developer. Started as a developer, then went to become a performance analyst on large scale applications, and architect for building data centers ground up, and networking areas of expertise being servers, storage, networking, virtualization, and these are all the things that I've gathered over a period of time. I've worked in different companies, started with Tata Unisys actually, and then if anybody remembers that still. So moved over to Unisys, Sun Microsystems, Cisco, VMware, and I was lucky enough to work on the customer side also, not just the vendor side with Verizon and Equinix. And now I'm back on the customer vendor side. And recently, the recent move that I did was finally came out and said we needed a company that would actually focus on this integration. The reason it was is last 10, 12 years, right from the days of my VMware, one of the glaring holes I would see walking into customers was one single place where I could build an IT service, not go and automate individual components. And typically, whenever there is a service, it would take anywhere between 4 to 10 or 12 different tools to interact, carry data over from each other to make it work as a service. And that is what prompted us to, as a team in Orchestral, to come out and say, this is a tool that is necessary. And fortunately, I'll talk a little bit more about it maybe sometime during the panel. We found an open source platform, which we have picked up as our base. And we are going to enhance that to become an enterprise grade platform. And that is what has interested me for the last 10 to 12 years, where I've been solely focused on bringing this integration together as a single tool. It could be single tool, single set of tools put together without ripping and replacing the existing toolkits within the enterprise. I think that is the key part, because for us, that was what it was. Tools have evolved, architectures have evolved in the enterprise, and it has to be adhered to. And we had to make sure that the customers were comfortable with what they were using to take it forward to the next level. And that is what is the mission of what we're trying to do. And as I said, honored to be part of this panel. Thank you, Vikas. Back to you.
Thanks, Ravi. So that takes us to the second most important part of this discussion, which is how do we justify investments in integrations? And when a large part of the engineering budget is already spoken for features under development, right? That's something we run into all the time. So one of our customers was a leading customer data analytics company with a great standalone product. They could bring out a lot of insights about your customers. When they integrated their product with Microsoft Dynamics App Exchange, they were able to reach out to a large CRM user base. It was indeed a whole new user ecosystem, and it helped them quickly acquire new customers and leverage features and data collected by the CRM. So that's kind of an example of how revenue growth is driven through strategic ecosystem collaborations. And I'm sure our panelists will have many more examples of that. At Harbinger, we do a lot of work with HR technology. We have a customer that does candidate credentialing. This is very important in the health provider space. So you have to credential the doctors and the medical staff. And they needed to drive a seamless user experience integration, which means the credential system and the applicant tracking system need to work seamlessly without a recruiter having to first do the credentialing, then come out and log in into the applicant tracking. And this was a single workflow that we were able to accomplish for them. And that became such a critical part of their strategy that they went applicant tracking system after system going on integrating. And now there is an integration team dedicated to just doing this. So when you have some upfront investment in your integration strategy, whatever it is, depending on the size of the company and the type of ecosystem you must operate in, or the kind of workflows you need to support, the bottom line is that there is a strong rationale for investing in integrations. It's a strategic investment because it keeps you focused on your core and leaving the rest to your ecosystem. It achieves a seamless user experience and drives growth. Let's ask our panelists what their experience says. So right over to you. You can go in any sequence. So feel free to jump in. The question is there a good reason for SaaS providers to set aside budgets for integrations upfront, or would you rather deal with it as the need comes up?
I can start, I guess, if you'd like.
No, go ahead.
You know, when I came to EBI, as I mentioned, the strategy was both a customer retention as well as a customer attainment strategy. You know, we were at the time or EBI was doing integrations one at a time, and were very reactive in their endeavors when it came to integrating with the Oracles and the SAPs and the Workdays of the world. And so when I came in, I said, you know, we need to build these integrations up front, not only for customer retention, but also for competing in a marketplace where our competitors already have those integrations. And so if we don't have them, we're not going to be able to come to the table. And so I told our CEO it's going to be about $1 million for a year to get this up and going and get it flourishing and developing business for us. And luckily and unluckily for me, there was a great example that backed up my story. We lost a customer, a longtime customer, because we didn't have an integration at the time with SuccessFactors.
Right. Now, Donald, you do have close to 50% of your revenue coming from partners, right? It's a partner revenue model.
It is a definite partner ecosystem model. It's all referral based. It's not reseller based because of the space that we're in. A lot of compliance and regulatory things that people need to adhere to, and that's when they decide they don't want to resell.
Right.
You know, so we build out not only the technical side, and as you guys know, most of our partners, especially the bigger ones, they have their own APIs that we need to work with and work from. And so having a platform like the one that we've built with Harbinger to configure those integrations as opposed to having to develop them all the time helps us get those out to the market faster. They're more scalable, they're repeatable, and it helps us win and retain business.
So would your answer be a little different if you didn't have the 50% revenue and not the kind of weight that you pull in a different company's context? Would the answer be different?
Well, you know, at the time when I came to EBI, it wasn't 50% of the revenue. You know, so we've managed to increase the revenue stream, if you will, and probably 75 to 80% of every dollar that comes in is driven through one of those integrations that we've developed.
Perfect.
So it's a strategy for us, and it's one that we need to keep investing in, and we are. Because they say, like I said, people change, they move from one system to another, and we need to be able to move with them.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. Anyone else wants to jump in?
I would let Manish do it, because I'll then come into the technology or the technical engineering view of that.
Sure, I can do that. So I hope you guys can, you know, I think there's some lag on my side. I hope it is fine right now. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so you know, in my opinion, so again, in my current role, we are like 100% SaaS providers. Like we are ourselves are SaaS providers. So we have clients which we are kind of integrating right now. And being in the domain of healthcare, you know, the most important thing is the security part of it, because we are handling PHI data here. So it becomes, very important for us from the SaaS perspective, because there could be some other ways to share data, like through some files and all that, but that is not always a secure mechanism. So I'm so for us, for sure, we have been for last few years, we already have a system built out using we call it like a API gateway, like a process, what we have. And every client we go to, we do connect with them. And same thing what Don was saying, I'm with him on that every client we go, they have their own APIs, and they just want to share the data through those APIs using a secured way. So it's a challenging process sometimes, because depending on the clients, every client might have their own secured ways of sharing data. So some might be using an ID Connect, and some could be using an OAuth, like OAuth. And there are various ways, the security mechanism can be there, and we do have to adapt to these models now with them. So it becomes really important to have a good, strategy to support all these processes or the mechanism, the security mechanism with the clients. So I would say for sure, we have done the same thing on our side, that we have invested, and we are investing, still doing some more work to make our API platform, more robust and more scalable as we add more clients down the line.
Got it. Thanks.
Thanks, Don. Thanks, Manish. So my engineering take on this question is this. The word SaaS itself is not it's a new word in the dictionary just now, but it is not a new concept, is what my thought process is because it has been there forever. It's been there for decades. The reason, let me explain what I mean by that. The providers of any software service within your enterprise for the last 30, 40 years, they have been providing SaaS services to you. Your typical IT that would put up the whole integration of having the Oracle systems and these SAP systems in your lab and in your production environment to provide that service. They've been doing a yeoman service. And I think the first job that we as a set of leaders have to do is recognize them as SaaS providers. So that is the first type of SaaS providers that we have. And then now it is the traditional newer generation SaaS providers, which I would call as the typical as a subscription model or as a pay-go model, which is becoming more and more prevalent. And if you take these two categories of this SaaS providers, the traditional ITs, like what Don and what Manish said, have been struggling because they have APIs for different things. Some of them are legacy. They've inorganically grown, so they can't put things together. They need a place where they can integrate that together. And then you have the other one, which is fundamentally where the newer SaaS applications are using the latest technology, they're doing the latest APIs, they have the right integrations, they can do it even further with what they're doing with their SaaS model and the SaaS architecture that they have built. And the key thing I would say is, no matter what, any enterprise, any service provider, anybody who is going into this from a budgeting perspective needs to be aware that these integrations are mandatory for them to stay nimble and agile in the market. And if they don't budget for it, we have been seeing that, having talked to at least 200, 250 of the Fortune 500 Global 2000 customers in the last 4 or 5 years, especially with the product that we've been bringing out, all of these people who are legacy are suffering. And they have individual APIs, they have individual places where they can integrate, but there is nothing that could bring everything together as a workflow, as a end-to-end process delivery that you can do. And that is where I'm saying, from a budgeting perspective, it's absolutely, I would say at this juncture of the industry, mandatory for CIOs and some of the CFOs to be thinking about setting aside some budget for that integration to provide SaaS as a service, whether it is inside their own enterprise or whether it is for commercial purposes.
Well, those are great points, Ravi. Just a quick sort of yes/no question, but do people like MuleSoft and Dell Boomi and others have done a good job of raising this awareness and sort of creating thought leadership around this?
Yes, I would say yes,
things?
but there are some limitations in what they have done.
Okay.
But I would say yes.
We will get into that toward the end of this.
Yes.
So great. Let's just make some more progress here. Thank you again for all those perspectives. We're gonna move right along and go to the third piece, which is building a checklist for integration decision making. Okay, and this is not, we're not going to make this any bigger than it is. We're going to really break this down into three parts. There are three sort of major concern buckets, if you will. These three sets of issues are business strategy, customers, and technology. Let's start with strategy. Here's an example. One of our customers is a leading enterprise learning provider. In fact, they are one of the best in their category in terms of the size as well as the customer base. Okay. Now they live in the HR tech space, and the HR tech space has these gorillas like Workday and SuccessFactors and Oracle and so on. And then there are many small size tech providers. There's a long tail over there. Now, what should the integration strategy be? One piece of the integration strategy was to build out-of-the-box connectors with these large tech providers and then create an integration platform that supported the long tail on the other end. That way they could cater to all types of customers. So that's an example of how a strategic checklist point could there be. The other is the customers, right? So we have a leading job board service provider as our customer. In fact, it's one of the biggest, and they had a huge brand name right after the .com and internet, and they're still pretty big. It's one of the best job boards out there. And they decided to build integrations with multiple applicant tracking systems to provide real-time recommendations to candidates on their job board. So in other words, as soon as a new job is posted on the applicant tracking system of, say, Bank of America, they would have this pop up on the as a notification to the candidates that could match that job. So this real-time action helped them ensure that the recommendation was first as compared to other job boards, and they were that were competing for the same opening. So this is an example of a customer concern. And then in the technology category, I mean, obviously we have experts here. So, but I could say for example, in healthcare, as Manish would attest, there would be issues like using HL7 or FHIR, the various standards that govern health data exchange to connect multiple applications. So is there a prominent standard in the industry for data exchange, and what kind of volume we want to support, and so on? So those are some of the issues I can think of. The other way to sort of break this down in terms of scalability challenges is, you have the development scalability, which means if you have a fragmented market ecosystem, then you need to build many connectors. So you want to make a choice of integration strategy that would scale your development. On the other hand, there could be performance integration challenges in terms of whether you want to go real time, you want to give high fail safety and so on. So let's ask our panelists what challenges they have encountered when it comes to scaling integrations. This is beyond just doing a point-to-point connector, okay? So I'm going to go right over to the panel once again, and I'll invite you to share your thoughts. A specific type of scalability challenge you encountered, how you solved it. Just a quick quick anecdote.
This one I'll go first. The mention of HL7
Sure.
triggered a memory of mine, which I would probably not bring it up any other way.
Okay.
Right. So this is a challenge. This happened when we were a part of Cisco. When I was part of Cisco, working with Andiamo Systems. This was the company that built the fiber channel switch for Cisco, and I was one of the key technical marketing engineers. We would work with our partners, that is our storage partners, and I was assigned to HP and NetApp. So they were pretty much my partners that I had to groom and make sure that the solution was working.
Sure.
And with HP, we faced a particularly challenging situation where we were doing FCIP on their boxes. So now we are looking at 3 protocols being integrated, SCSI at the lowest level, translated to fiber channel, and then translated to IP. And we had a major performance issue where HP was like, oh, Cisco, it's your problem. And Cisco is like, no, it's your problem. And going back to what you said, if we had not solved that problem of integrating it at the lowest level, all the way to the top level,
sure,
we would not have been successful as 2 companies selling that as a solution. In the end, when the solution for this was, we had to rewrite the software that HP was using, which happened apparently, they had not rewritten that software since they bought DEC and the storage from DEC. And this was a piece of software which was written in the 70s. And they thought this was great and this was working. When we gave them a bandwidth of 1 gig between two boxes to do replication, it failed. And we did this, and in 2004, actually, it's a good thing to have that team that we actually formed to solve this problem was awarded the Best Virtual Team Award from HP.
Wow.
And this is a classic example where we have to start looking at integrations like this all the way from the lowest level, make sure that it is compatible as we grow up to the top. And that's the reason.
Certainly entails asking some uncomfortable questions about whatever they have inherited, right?
Yes. And that is one of the reasons they didn't want to accept it, that there was their problem. It was, they didn't want to accept that, okay, it's somebody else's software, we don't know what it is doing. And it was a challenging, we had to prove that it was a problem before we could get forward.
Okay, great. Quick suggestion for Donald and Manish. Can I do a couple more slides and then we integrate this question with the other 2? Would that be good?
Sure.
Okay. So then I think with your permission, I'll move along just a little bit here, and we'll again come back over to you. So now we come to the the platform approach to integrations, which is really the meat of our discussion today, and also the final part of our discussion. There are 3 fundamental approaches to integrations that are scalable. One is to buy a proprietary platform like MuleSoft or Dell Boomi or what have you and implement it for your specific need. Second is to go with an open source platform like WSO2 or StackStorm and customize it for your needs and then provide stellar support to your users. And the third is to build something right from scratch, for integrations in the cloud. So we have the buy, open source, build, all 3 approaches. And we're going to just take turns and invite our panelists to talk about each one of them. And also in case of Manish and Donald to talk about the earlier question. So great. So I think we're right there where we have to go to the buy option and invite Manish to talk about his recent decision for selecting a platform and what factors played a major role in that decision?
Sure. I can do that. Yeah. So I will tell you a few things before I share that. So we already have an in-house product today, which has been built in last, I would say 1 to 2 years. And it is a good, solution what we have built internally. And it do support all our client needs, whatever we have today. The main challenge, what was happening is that whenever we go to our new clients and the way our product is today, our implementation time is like no more than 3 months. So you can think like 90 to 100 days. And that is our, our niche, we call it with our clients, that we will implement the product in 90 to 100 days. And when we do this integration, we are expert on our products, everything, and we do have the right team, right SMEs to work on it. The one thing that is never, we cannot manage it or control it is when we talk about our API platform, because now it is dependent on the client, because we are telling them out of the box, we do have API platform with the product that comes in, but we don't know what kind of data we will get from them, in what fashion, like what actually Ravi was saying earlier, like similar thing, like it could be like a legacy thing on their side, which is very old, and we need to build something new now to support that, those integration. So these were some challenges what we were facing, where whenever we were going, and then it would impact our timeline sometimes, that now we cannot implement in 90 days because we have a lot of work to be done. And then also the architects, we'll have to bring in our senior architects, our senior engineers, and all these senior team members were getting involved, and they were trying to build all these processes. So you can think, one thing is we are impacting the timelines. Next thing is we keep bringing our senior architects and engineers and into this when we have no plan that this will be needed for this client. So it was impacting us in many ways. So what we started doing is we started looking into some products, and we did explore around 4 to 5 products in the market, including open source also. And then we have done that exercise, I would say, for in last 2 months, we have been working on it. And then looking into our business need, what kind of things we'll be needing in next 4 to 5 years. So those were all the factors. Pricing was the factor. And then the main factor was, how easy is to implement that product. Can I bring my junior developers, and can they do this, without just with drag and drop features and those kind of things. So based on, all these factors, then we made a decision to buy a product. And we bought a product last month, and now we are in the process of implementing the product. So we are hoping, after this product is implemented, our implementation will be very, smooth, and we will not get into surprises with our clients as we move forward.
Perfect. So one or two of your major factors were do you have access to skills to implement this product in a scalable fashion? Because you're going to have several of these. And then, of course, the price. Those were some of the things that went into the decision.
That is correct.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
I think the other option we have to talk about is the option about open source. And I think this is a perfect time to hand this over to Ravi to get his views on how, as a tech company, you made the decision to build on top of something that was available as an open source project and create much more value for your current and potential customers.
Thanks, you guys. So my opinion on that is, open source itself, anything that is open source, plays a very important role in the adoption of the newer technologies, because, for the lack of better words, pardon my word, this is where the geeky brains are sitting and playing around with it and putting things together. And some things work, some things don't work. And it's not like everything in open source will work. But when it starts working, this is something that a set of engineers who have the passion to develop something new and the passion to say, hey, this is something that I think is cool, will help the industry. That is the reason the open source community is thriving today, right? So
Yes.
in terms of that, the open source community, in my opinion, is a stimulant to the brains of the technical, geeky part of our brain that will bring that new perception, new way of thinking. And
Sure.
in our case, StackStorm, for example, was built as a joint project in 2014 with the exact geeks from Netflix and the open source community. That's the history of StackStorm, which we picked it up.
Okay.
And they used it for about a couple of years, and they basically defined the architecture. It's a very robust architecture because it's built by these people who are looking at scalability being their only and absolute need. And they built this together, and then once that was built, what happened is they took the open source platform and built secret sauce and sauces on top of it, and they've continued to use it as their own internal product within their company. But what it has given in the process is that the open sourcing of that whole project enabled the open source community to build about close to anywhere between 450 to 500 ready-made integrations to pretty much anything in the IT infrastructure that you ask. When I say IT infrastructure, it's not just your server storage, network infrastructure. It is also your business systems, talking to your CRM, talking to your billing system, talking to IPAM, talking to load balancers. That is the beauty of what they've built. And this is the opportunity that I have been following this from almost from the time of 2015 when I was in Equinix, when I wanted a platform like this. And this is how I got interested in StackStorm. And when at that time Brocade bought the community and said, we are going to buy this as a thing, that is when it so happened it was perfect for me that Brocade was actually trying to sell their switches to Equinix, and their senior VP for product management had come in and saying that this is what our product is, we are selling this is our new product. And we started talking about StackStorm. We both hit it off, and finally he said, hey Ravi, come over and run this for me.
Okay.
And that is the reason I went to him to do this.
Okay.
And it was good. And now it is, the key thing here is the advantage of having this open source community, right? Like in essence, if you just want to put this as why open source or what is open source's advantages over pre-built or custom-built operation is open source. If you look at it from an artist sort of a standpoint, open source paints this wide brush and creates a canvas. That is what it has given us. It has given us about 400 to 500 integrations. The starting point is already there. That wide brush has been created. The canvas is there. Now it takes an artist to draw a Mona Lisa on top of it. And that is what we from Orchestral is coming in and saying, we will be that artist that will transform it to exactly what a particular customer wants.
Right.
And it may need to go deep into certain integrations, and with our expertise, we have that. So we will build that deeper integration.
Got it.
So that is our approach to how open source is being used. And in the way we have done it, we have not mitigated open source by saying we will not use them or we'll push them out. We have embraced that.
Sure.
And we will continue to embrace it. Whatever some of the developments that we do, we will give it back to open source so that the platform becomes more robust and more usable by the community. But when it comes to in-depth integration, we will be the people who provide that stellar support for that.
Sure, sure. So this whole thinking started at the point of orchestrating network services across cloud providers. And then now what you have, and I guess the name Orchestral,
Yeah.
could be there. But primarily the idea would be to make it easy by starting off of an open source base where you have something ready-made. In fact, quite ready-made in the sense of 400 to 500 implementations, integrations, and then building on top of that. Right?
Yes.
Great. Thanks for sharing that, and feel free to come back and add to it because we'll have one more set of questions. Would you like to go next, Donald? In your case, you have built from ground up everything that you needed. Why was that? Why wouldn't you just use something off the shelf or open source?
Our strategy was really threefold. One was to have the technology IP and have that as an asset within the company. So that was one of the reasons for the build decision. The other was having more control over the change. As new integrations come up, being able to quickly change what we needed to within the platform, as opposed to waiting on a third party if we were to buy the software to put that into their product. We're a smaller company. We don't obviously have as much leverage with MuleSoft or Dell Boomi that others might have. And so it was important to us to have control over being able to make changes to our integration platform. And then the third thing was to, as I mentioned earlier, have a scalable, repeatable process that was more configuration based. So we could hand it to an implementation team, a non-technical person, if you will, to Manish's comment earlier, and enable them to drag and drop, similar to what the Dell Boomis of the world do, but be able to map with the user interface as opposed to having to develop. Right. So those were the three reasons that we went down a build path. The first two being the primary, but making it a tool that could be used internally by a non-technical person to deploy the integrations as well. So that was really our process around why we chose the build path. I've used the other products before, and we don't have a large development team, which is why plug for you guys why we partnered with Harbinger as an extension of our organization, really, to be honest. And so that's been fabulous for us. We do have development and technical folks on our integrations team, and so they're able to provide functional specs and requirements and those types of things, and then work with you as our partner to get that build done.
Got it. Yes. I would also think it may have something to do with the fact that you are focused on a very clear vertical niche, right? Which is the employee background investigations. And unlike Ravi's mandate, which is to horizontally support all manner of integrations between various things. So I guess the starting point could be partly governed by that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, we integrate with applicant tracking systems and core HR systems. Right. And so now we'll take our platform though and extend it over time because we work with a number of vendors that help us deliver our services. And so we want to extend the platform to be able to integrate with them as well.
Got it. Okay, very good. So let's see. So we talked about that, building a custom solution, and that, thanks Donald for that. That kind of brings us to the takeaway slide, which is ecosystems are getting complex and customers want rapid implementations. Those are the drivers for scalable integrations. There are several benefits we discussed, so it should be possible to justify upfront investments in integrations. Comprehensive integration checklist covers the three buckets: strategy, customers, and technology. And you have three approaches: buy, open source, build. And you heard from the experts, so you can choose which one works best for you. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to Shrikant for a precisely 30-second plug, and then we'll come back to the panelists for any last questions. Over to you, Shrikant.
Hey, thanks, Vikas. Thanks all of you for your valuable insights. Just a quick thing about what we do at Harbinger. So at Harbinger, we work with product engineering companies as well as enterprises on their providing them technology services for building products, also helping them on their data engineering needs. That's where the whole integration thing comes into play. And we run into a lot these days, like our panelists alluded. Integration seems to be a problem across, be it for enterprises or be it for product engineering companies. And we have a strong consulting team, which can help you irrespective of where you are in your technology journey. If you want to solve some problems, you could reach out to us. Thank you. Over to you, Vikas.
All right. Well, I just stopped share to put the focus on you, but you were quick. All right. So with that, I think we are open for any questions or any last points from the panelists. I think we did good here. In 52 minutes, we reached there. So we have about 8 minutes to follow up, shoot the breeze, ask questions, anything. Sarita, feel free to let us know if the audience has anything. Otherwise, we'll just get a last word from everybody.
And nothing much on the chat now here.
Okay, cool. Any closing comments from either of you?
All I can say is thank you very much, Vikas and Sarita and team, for putting this together. It was a good discussion, and it gives a different perspective, I hope, to every listener to say how they can strategize their integrations in their enterprises / businesses so that it can help them be agile and competitive in the market. That's all I can say. And it is a fantastic discussion. Thanks, Don. Thanks, Manish. Thanks, Vikas, for all the insights that you provided.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Great to have you again.
Thank you.
Manish, Donald, anything?
And I would echo the same, so again, thanks for putting this. So again, I learned a lot too, from experts here. So this is a good learning, and I hope all the people who have attended, maybe it was a good learning for them too. Thank you for it.
Definitely.
Yeah, Vikas, thank you for having me, and Manish and Ravi. It's a pleasure to be on the panel with you guys as well. I would echo one of Ravi's earlier points, which is integrations isn't a nice to have anymore. It's a mandatory have to have. If you're going to be competitive in any market moving forward, you have to have an integration strategy, whether it's through partner ecosystems or whether it's through your own products that you acquire over time. I mean, acquisitions happen all the time, so being able to integrate those platforms becomes a must as well. So it is a mandatory thing that anybody that's in business should think about for sure if they're providing technology platforms or services and or products.
Great. Truly enjoyed this. All the three of you bring so much together, in terms of different perspectives. I really appreciate your time. And back over to you, Sarita, for a quick closure.
Yep. Thank you, Vikas. That was wonderful. And thank you to all the panelists for an insightful discussion. I'm sure all of us are going back with some food for thought today. And wishing you all the best, and stay safe and stay healthy.